fortune.
Okay, don't applaud. I won't take it, you know. So I have a suggestion as our other panelists are coming out. Since we're a breakout group and it's a lighter audience, if you want to move in closer, go for it. Okay, here comes our panelists. Okay, we've got 4 dehydrated panelists here. We've all agreed. I hope you're all hydrating there. Welcome. This is kind of a, I don't know if you were all at the last panel, but this is actually kind of, I think, in keeping with the last panel where we're talking about the future of content. Obviously, there's the old news of TV, traditional television watching, either declining, plateauing, whatever your point of view is. We're seeing amazing new news around the corner. We've been talking a lot about Netflix and House of Cards, Amazon streaming its movies, YouTube. And by the way, let me give a shout out right now to a new YouTube piece coming out in Fortune in the next issue, in which we point out that when Google bought YouTube, it was kind of, there were a lot of snickers, but now it's a powerhouse of content with 1 billion views and a leading platform for professional artists and producers looking for a mass audience, something that we will get into further here. So there's a lot of changes going on to explore with this truly tremendous panel because they range across all elements of this. I want to bring you guys in really early for questions because I want to make this as interactive as possible. I'm going to briefly introduce you and then go back and talk about each of you specifically. Courtney Holt, Maker Studios, Ben Lerer of Thrillist, Ross Levinsohn, Guggenheim Guggenheim Digital Media, and Nancy Tellem, Xbox Entertainment, which of course is owned by Microsoft. Nancy, let me start with you. You're somebody that spent much of your life at CBS. You are associated with real hit shows like CSI, ER, and I didn't realize this one, Everybody Loves Raymond. Right. And yet you took the plunge from old media to new media, and you are now producing shows. You have a production studio in Santa Monica, and you've teamed up with Steven Spielberg, and you're going to produce shows on Xbox. So therefore, my 17-year-old, I was saying backstage, when my 17-year-old was, you know, playing Halo and screaming into this machine, this is actually going to mean something to the future of content.
I certainly hope so. Yeah, I mean, the transition, I've always, you know, been interested in kind of the intersection of tech and content, and I think as time, you know, I've been kind of delving into it, seeing how, and I think there was an earlier panel talking about content and new distribution opportunities. And certainly, you know, what we're focused on at Xbox Studios is not only creating original content and premium content at that, but also creating a different kind of TV experience. So right now we have about 78 or 76 million consoles globally sold. We have about 48 million subscribers. And with it, we have great technology with Connect and Smart Glass and Skype, and the idea that we can take advantage of these technologies and really create a different type of experience engaged in television watching. So instead of it being a passive experience, you can either choose to either passively watch or really engage. And the idea that you can kind of create your own living room from a social standpoint of connecting in real time with your friend across the United States or globally is really an exciting opportunity and allows you to connect in a really special way with the content that's on our platform.
So talk about the partnership with Spielberg.
Well, you know, obviously one of our biggest franchises is Halo, and you know, the focus was there's a rabid interest in, you know, billions of hours have been spent playing the game. And it really, truly is a franchise. There are novels, there's merchandising, and the next step was really to kind of go deeper in narrative to the Halo mythology. So the idea is to create a premium series, and we're fortunate to have Steven Spielberg involved. He's a huge Halo fan and a big gamer, and that we'll be producing a premium series with him.
And will it be interactive? To what extent will it be interactive with the program versus interactive with other watchers?
Both. And that's the great thing about our platform. It can both be interactive with people that are on the part of Xbox Live, and the way that, you know, from the beginning as this is being developed, we have interactivity in mind as far as developing. So unlike a lot of situations where you kind of develop a show and then you add interactivity or attempt some kind of second screen experience after the fact, we are going to start from the beginning of this development is kind of envisioning the interactive component along with it. So it has to be very much organic. You know, as I say that it starts with the content. The content has to be compelling, and the interactivity makes the experience much richer. You just can't have interactivity for interactivity's sake. And
what kind of reaction are you getting when you approach talent to be part of these kinds of projects?
It's really quite amazing. You know, the great thing about it is really it gives these talent creators and producers an opportunity for a new platform. And it isn't, you know, what we're going to, and what we envision is obviously transitioning Xbox from simply a gaming console to an entertainment hub. And with that content, whether it be premium, whether it be sports, whether it be news, live events, unscripted, all of that we want to kind of look at content and what will really kind of highlight all the tech experiences you're going to have on Xbox. So they're excited about it.
And producing shows beyond Halo? I mean, you're going to...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. We have a lot in development, and nothing to announce yet, but
that's what I'm trying to get there. Okay.
We're close.
Okay. Ross, you're at Guggenheim Digital Media, which, of course, is part of Guggenheim, which is this really huge financial powerhouse. Took over the LA Dodgers recently, was in the news for that. And you just started your job in January. And before that, you were a year as an interim CEO at Yahoo. You were at News Corp in the digital section, so you've been in this world, this space quite a bit. And you're sort of on the, well, you are on the shopping side. You're shopping for interesting ventures, right? And let's first talk about, you have a different, one of your perspectives is that there's different types of quality in content, and there's the three-bucket theory.
Yeah, well, we do a couple of things. Guggenheim is, on the media side, is a collection of influential brands. That's how it really was started. Half my day is spent managing those businesses and those brands. They range from, you know, in music, we own Billboard, which is influential. In entertainment, we own The Hollywood Reporter and Dick Clark Productions, which does shows like the Golden Globes and the American Music Awards. Guggenheim is an investor and owner of the Dodgers, obviously influential baseball brand. We also own Adweek and the Clio Awards and the Film X Group. So what really was intriguing to me about this collection of businesses and then the desire to do more was that it was focused in and around premium content. And you and I had spoken earlier about this. For years and years and years, I've been in the internet a long time, and I've seen sort of this evolution of content. Premium, super premium, look at it in three buckets. Super premium content, which is stuff that CBS, that Nancy produced for years and years and years, and that's being produced across a variety of platforms and from production companies and studios today, is this very small but very influential and rich set of content. The second bucket, which I think is substantially bigger than the first bucket, I sort of call semi-premium, which I would say Courtney is a purveyor of. What's being done at Maker and Ben Silverman's company and hundreds like it are producing quality content, different economic scale, different distribution mechanisms, and is reaping decent CPMs and in some cases good subscription models. And the third is UGC, which is an even bigger bucket, which I think we're starting to see both the evolution of that, thanks to ad targeting, but generally premium brand advertisers gravitating certainly more to the top 2/3 than the bottom third, but data making a huge difference in the bottom. And I was attracted to this collection of assets and the idea of buying more like it because I've always been a believer in premium content. And we heard an earlier panel, I was sitting here and somebody stood up and said, it's really about start with creating the best product. And we can call ER a product if we want to in the entertainment landscape. You create good content and users find that. You do have to market it, but my belief was always that the better the content you create, the more valuable it is. And at Yahoo, when I got there, that was part of our mission on the media side, that we really wanted to move from trying to do everything to focusing on some high-end premium experiences, especially in video, and I think we made fairly good strides. And we saw advertisers coming over the transom to support that. So where we are today at Guggenheim is continuing to look for brands with influence, to continue to look to satisfy this quest to experience content on every platform, and to do it and find great entrepreneurs and great managers that we can invest in.
So to get a little specific here, you don't think Tumblr fits in premium content. You think it sort of belongs in the bottom of the bucket.
Tumblr's a platform. And I think to make a general statement that says everything on Tumblr is UGC and terrible is the wrong statement. There are great content experiences on Tumblr. I think the challenge has been, will be, and I managed MySpace for a while, so I had, I think, a similar experience, is to sift through the millions and millions of experiences that sit on Tumblr, making sure that platform continues to grow and get out there for content creators around the world, but to really focus and shine the advertising opportunity spotlight, or potentially subscription spotlight, on those semi-premium and super premium content experiences.
But you wouldn't have bought Tumblr if you were CEO of Yahoo right now.
I spent some time with, not when I was at Yahoo, when I left Yahoo, with Dave and Lee Brown, who worked for me for a while at Yahoo, and I was incredibly impressed. I mean, Dave is just an incredible entrepreneur, visionary, brilliant guy. I probably wouldn't have bought Tumblr because my strategy was focused on premium, super premium and premium content. And no secret, having just come out of the experience of Hulu, I would have focused more on looking at spending and deploying capital against things like Hulu.
Well, and so let's talk about Hulu, because tell us about your history, your early history with Hulu, why you went after it, your disappointment in not getting it, and your conversation with Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah, I was, I think, fortunate to be I was at News Corp for almost 7 years and was there at the origin of, it wasn't certainly called Hulu, of the creation of this idea of putting entertainment assets in the video space together between a couple of programming studios. And loved the early experience there. That's a very long story, but it turned out to be something that clearly consumers and advertisers have flocked to. I think Jason Kyler and his team did a far better job than any of us could have imagined. And I said to Andy Forssell, who's the CEO now, when the process ended, I think it's a great validation for what that team has built, that these three giant media companies have decided to support it. So I love the fact that they're embracing it again.
And you said to Murdoch?
Well, I spoke to Mr. Murdoch earlier in the year, February-ish, and it didn't feel to me that he wanted to sell it. And we had a brief conversation. I think it's been one of the few shining examples of these three media companies of their success in the digital landscape, and I didn't think, candidly, and I said this to him, that I would be in such a rush to get rid of it. And I think he's been public that he likes the idea of keeping it. Yeah. And I think the future's bright for Hulu, and I'm thrilled to see that they're supporting it. Obviously, I was disappointed that we didn't end up managing it and owning it, but I'm not surprised at all that they ended up going the way they went.
So you've taken out your shopping cart and you're, well, you said you had 20 potential deals in the hopper.
We have Xander Lurie's in the room working with me, and we have a nice team at Guggenheim. We're meeting with incredible people and companies, some of whom are in this room, and it's exciting every day to wake up, and a lot of it's on display here, to see the way the world is changing, especially in the media space. Look, I've known Nancy for a few years. I mean, if I had sat with her 10 years ago and said, guess what, 10 years from now you're going to be, doing all this at Xbox, right, she probably would have thrown a cleaver at me. But it's...
Or laughed at you.
It's a testament to, guess what, the way consumers are experiencing content today has changed, and has changed the landscape forever. And the fact that you can get people of Nancy's quality to go do what she does on this platform, and to get Netflix to do what it's doing. And by the way, to see what Showtime is doing with shows like Homeland, right, where I worked at HBO in the late 80s, early 90s, and the idea that somebody would spend that amount of money and create that incredible experience on a pay cable network, if we had sat here in 1982, you'd be like, yeah, don't they have polka dances on HBO? Yeah. Literally, that's how it started. So I think it's an amazing time if you're in this business and in the content space.
So Ben,
I have one question for Ross, actually, if that's okay.
Go for it.
I was told there would be no questions from the panel.
I'm curious, owning all these different super valuable assets, how do you guys think about pushing them together and making each more valuable by having the connection through Guggenheim?
Having massively screwed that up in the past, we don't. Okay. I think there are places you can find efficiency. You could probably have one HR department that helps manage that process, has an orientation process. You can probably have some centralized back office. But the second you take and you know this, the creative energy out of that specific discipline, you ruin the asset, you ruin the brand. So this is a wonderful time. If Janice Min, who is the editor of the Hollywood Reporter, and has remade that brand arguably as well as any publication in this country, if I tried to force some stupid, silly centralization on her and took that energy out of that business, it would fail.
So Ross, it's your turn to ask Ben, he's our token editorial content provider person here. You have a question for him?
No, I'm just following what he does because he's super successful at it.
Yeah, so Ben, so you're taking a fascinating business model, but which is basically selling stuff to dudes.
Yes.
Selling cool stuff to dudes.
Hopefully.
You pitched this to your dad, who's the co-founder of HuffPo and the chairman of BuzzFeed, and he said, keep your day job.
Yeah, very thankful for that good advice.
Why did you not listen to that and talk about, you're basically doing a commerce-supported editorial model, correct?
Yep. So we got started and we're strictly focused on creating high-value content. I think in your bucket's probably bucket 2, maybe aspiring to be bucket 3. Content for guys with sort of our philosophy was that the content we create should serve a purpose. It should always have an action tied to it. So I think it's so easy to be a content creator nowadays. There's way too much content, frankly, and our view was that the content we create for guys needs to be trustworthy, and it needs to actually help guys make their lives better, help them make decisions about how they spend their time and their money. And that was the concept in building Thrillist. And over the years, as we built out an audience and built trust and proved that we were able to take guys and actually influence their buying behaviors, we realized that there was an opportunity not just to monetize that relationship through renting it to advertisers, but where we could actually build a commerce platform on the back end, and through the insights that we had about our guys and what they wanted to buy, actually service them and fulfill those through a commerce platform that we built.
And you got the idea from Daily Candy?
The original concept was totally stolen from Daily Candy. Absolutely. They had done a great job building a brand that spoke to women and that moved women sort of online to offline and got them spending money, and we thought there was an opportunity to do it for guys. But we're now really excited about the idea of taking the curation and the trust that we've built as a content brand and building a merchandising team on the back end of that, where we're able to provide truly unique commerce experiences, just like our content experiences.
And we talked about this a bit, but what was the fork in the road or most difficult decision that you had to make along the way when you were building this so far?
The big moment was getting over the hump that we actually had to dive in and bet the business and start to take inventory. And I think a lot of media companies talk about commerce, but they don't actually put their money where their mouth is. They dip their toe in and they hire someone to do customer service, and they leverage someone else's merchandise, and they don't get good at fulfillment, and they don't build their own, technology platform. It's all outsourced from different pieces, and it's limiting their risk, but therefore limiting their reward. And for us, the big hurdle was we need to get comfortable with the fact that this is not just a media company. We don't just create content and sell advertising against it. We need to get great at a whole different set of disciplines that are scary and that have financial, we have to lay out cash and hold millions of dollars of inventory in an 82,000 square foot warehouse with 100 employees and stuff that makes a lot of media folks cry hysterically. And I think we were so naive that we didn't understand what we were getting ourselves into, but it turned out to be the best decision we ever made.
And next, what's your news?
So next for us is sort of recognizing that Thrillist as a brand has great expertise and trust around some categories of content, but not all. And so whereas in the past, I think for a minute we thought Thrillist might be sort of a general men's lifestyle brand or portal, we've decided to really focus Thrillist in the categories that we feel most comfortable within that brand, which are food, drink, and travel. And we're now building out other content brands on our platform in verticals that we've seen success creating content at Thrillist, but where we've never really been great at it. So one is fashion and music. We've launched a publication called the Crosby Press. We have another launch coming up shortly focused on gear, gadgets, and technology. And we're building out men's lifestyle brands that are all focused on the same idea, which is delivering trusted recommendations for how to spend time and money. And then on the back of it, taking the Jack Threads commerce platform and powering purchasing across each of these different areas of men's lifestyle. And so it's vertical expansion on the content side as well as on the commerce side.
And now we move on to music. Courtney, YouTube, as I said earlier, people thought it originally as a sort of home movie venue, so to speak. But you saw it as something different, which was marrying quality talent. And I noticed you didn't take on Ross's putting you in the second bucket. I won't, I'll let you take that on now if you want, but you're also a quality fiend. Talk about your company and why you saw the potential in launching acts on YouTube or extending acts.
Our business is a multi-vertical business. The creators that form Maker started this company because they were using YouTube as a way to build their personal brands. They started making video in 2005, and over time they realized that, as there became these channel initiatives and monetization, that there was a business and there was a small community of like-minded creators that came together and formed what is the base of Maker today, which was a talent-centered media company built from this idea that you can have a direct connection to a consumer and build a viable, sustainable, long-term programming business on top of that. So this whole thing started 4 years ago with one channel. I joined about 2 years ago. I'd spent most of my career in traditional media, working at companies like MySpace, and I'd been at Viacom, and I was at Universal Music. So I spent most of my career in that sort of uber premium bucket. MySpace was the first time I really saw sort of the breadth of what was available. For me, it was somewhat of a natural progression because look, I actually moved to LA to make movies. I have a film degree. This was my dream, to be able to find a home for what I couldn't find when I was 21 trying to get started in the business. It was really hard to go from, I have no skills and no relationships to be able to do this. And I watched this entire ecosystem taking place outside of the traditional Hollywood system. YouTube had started this idea of originals, where they were going to fund creators to make original programming. And I happened to be fortunate enough to be in some of those meetings, which led me ultimately to Maker through a series of happenstances. But I fell in love with the opportunity because it was the thing that was always missing, which was a chance for true creative expression without the challenges of traditional media. There were no discipline around formats and seasons and shows and this talent or that talent. There was just this unique direct connection with audience. In the last 2 years, we've gone from, at the time I joined, it was about a quarter million, I think, video views, or 250 million video views a month, and about 200 creators. Today, we're at 4 billion video views a month, mostly on YouTube, and we represent a creator community globally of over 25,000 creators. And they are making premium programming. I mean, 40% of our views are on a mobile device, tablet or phone, and 80% of our viewers are under the age of 34. So right now, we're the largest distributor of programming to millennials in the US.
So talk about the acts. Who are you? Big names on down.
We work with lots of very big talent that most of you have never heard of. A guy named PewDiePie is the #2 channel on YouTube today. He lives in Sweden. He makes videos primarily about gaming. He also does some music and comedy. But he's really creating this entire media business around his passion for gaming. He does 150 to 200 million views a month. He gets over 3 million views, on-demand views of new programming every day. And recently he went to Singapore. He won a social media award. He was mobbed by 3,000 girls in his hotel lobby. We had to hire security.
Wow.
He vlogs the whole thing. He's a natural-born celebrity, but he grew up with a different discipline than most of the people in traditional media would see. He also he has aspirations to make programming in a way that many of us would love to be able to make, but it's sort of open-ended because he's not worried about September through May or 22 minutes or, he's making things he's passionate about, and there's a vibrant audience that loves him. And he's a prime example. We just announced Toby Turner, who's another big games media and comedy producer. We work with Epic Rap Battles guys. The Epic Rap Battles of History is the biggest show online. We're about to start our 3rd season. We do, on average, 32 million views per episode.
Wow.
And we just, we're doing an episode every other week starting soon again. It's the biggest franchise show that I've heard of. And we work with lots of great creators. And it's also a range from people like Snoop Dogg, who have...
Yeah, talk about that experience with him.
It was amazing. I mean, Snoop Dogg came down to our office right when I started, and literally we're walking him through these alleys in Venice because we were in a kind of a weird office space. And he was like, I want to be here. At the time, he had a huge Facebook following, he had a huge Twitter following, and he had no presence on YouTube. So we were talking, and then, for those of you that remember, he did a performance at Coachella, not this year, the year before, and there was a hologram of Tupac. And he put it up on his channel, it went viral. And he watched his viewership grow overnight, and then they were gone, and they were like, well, what happened? I'm like, you gotta make programming, you gotta think about this. And we walked him through how it works on the back end, how we build audience, how we sustain it, and how the audience can convert to transact. So he, since then, has a weekly series he does on his own. We're doing original programming with him. He appeared in an Epic Rap Battle. We are looking at some new show development with him, but in addition to that, he launched a documentary film they did with Vice. He launched his album, which is a partnership with Sony. He had one video on Vivo, but the vast majority of his programming went on his own channel. And he's built a subscriber base to over 500,000 subscribers. And while that may not sound like a lot of people in the grand scheme of things, he's got like 11 or 12 million Twitter followers. The ROI on that, he's selling product to people. He has a car care line, a house slipper line, and he now realizes that the authenticity of that programming has given him, in his words, his own BET. So he's got a direct connection with his audience. He can put up programming wherever he wants, in any concept and category, and he makes video for that channel every single week, no matter what. I think that level of discipline aligns with what we see in our broader creator community. Because I can't think of any other creator that gets paid to make something outside of maybe a working musician. And I'm not talking about the ones that are signed. I'm talking the guy who plays the bar 3 nights a week and then maybe gives music lessons. My creators think about views as money, and the more views they create, the more money they can make. And that mindset is a different work ethic than people who've historically been paid to stand on an X and read someone else's words. It's just a different discipline. And when they're given the opportunity to be broader in the creative landscape, which is what we do, they thrive. And I think that's really what's core to the long-term success of Maker.
What's to stop them from leaving YouTube and starting their own?
look, our business is not entirely rooted on YouTube. It's sort of the center of our universe, and we figured out how to sort of reverse engineer it to drive this type of audience engagement and scale it. I mean, look, in the old broadcast model, you had a finite amount of inventory to promote. Scarcity is easy when there's only 24 hours in a day and 7 days in a week. In our world, we have unlimited supply. Our business is focusing the demand side. We really are focused on talent health. We have a huge technology team. It's probably our second largest group, building out incredible tools for talent to keep them engaged. And we're looking at the best opportunities both on and off YouTube. And we're developing these formats. I mean, we have kind of a weird one. We have a 30-minute weekly talk show for moms. It's the biggest show for moms on YouTube. We built an entire network around it. We have 100 million views for young moms. It's called The Mom's View is the network. And the show, we do it live every week, and we're getting 50% of the people that watch the show watch the full 30 minutes. And we're talking about fairly large numbers. If you look at that, and by the way, we're tracking our entire business on a C3 and C7 for obvious reasons, the engagement would rival the type of engagement you see on most cable networks targeting young women. So this is a format, it's a show. We think about it in terms of seasons. We're bringing the same discipline to Maker that I saw on the traditional media side.
And I know you had some interest in talking to Nancy after the panel about her platform.
We've got great shows with a lot of people watching them, and we have people that love Xbox, so why not?
I can't believe how much time we've taken up already, so we're going to open it to questions really soon. I'm just going to throw out a couple here. How do you measure audiences in any of this? I mean, the broadcasters for years had, Nielsen ratings or whatever. There was a measurement, however controversial it was. How are we measuring these other entertainment content providers in a way that's...
Well, I think what's happening now, I mean, I think it all depends on what business you're in. If you're in the advertising business, you somehow have to measure to the metrics that they are willing to buy.
Right.
There are certain advertisers that are looking for an environment to be in. Also, when you're dealing with a platform such as Xbox, you're also dealing with interactive ads where you can really, with the analytics, figure out who's on and who's actually following through with it, as opposed to kind of surmising who's actually watching in a pod, advertising pod, that they're actually watching the commercial or not. So,
I guess my question is it adequate? I mean, are the measurements out there adequate to know?
No, this could be the greatest revolution in the history of the media business. If and when, and I think it's not a question of if, just when, we actually track TV viewing or viewing of video programming on all platforms accurately. I mean, there's nothing preventing us from putting a chip, and the chip's already there, in every set-top box, and a piece of code, a line of code on every video view, and we should know exactly how many people are watching what. Nancy's 100% right in this respect. Advertisers sometimes care more about the environment than they do the total number of views, because we see it every day. And so it's not always just going to be based on the total number of views. It's going to be based on the quality or the type of content, the audience that's watching it, the demographic that's watching it, who the advertiser is. But there's nothing preventing us from a lot of people who are at this conference, from loading up those boxes and that hardware with knowing exactly who's watching what.
Did you have a thought on that?
I find in our platform we have a lot of efficiency, but we are, and this follows on with what Ross saying, we're kind of middling our business by trying to make it look like things that are familiar. So we're tracking C3 and C7 in a relative basis is more to show how we stack up against broadcast. We have to look at Nielsen data. We have to organize ComScore data against creating these apples to oranges comparisons. I wish it was more accurate. I know that there's a significant amount of engagement in what we're trying to accomplish, but it's very hard to reconcile against what a traditional marketer would want.
Well, this is why commerce, by the way, is so important. Commerce is a real way to validate the quality of that audience. And as we've brought commerce more and more sort of into the forefront of what we do, our audience is as good as, we can measure the realness of the audience based on how much money they spend.
And I have a follow-up for you, but let's raise your hands for questions quickly, Ben. Is advertising supported editorial content yesterday's news?
I think it's a really great part of the story. I think if you want to build a really big media company online and you're not making money directly from your consumer and you're only hoping that advertisers will pay you for access to that audience, you're not going to build that great a business at the end of the day.
Right there.
Fair. I have a company, Vidicom, a branded video content company. What do you think the future of branded video content is, number one? Number two, and what do you think of the AOL Live advertising channel they're going to be launching?
I can speak to branded content because we do a lot of it as well. It's great because it gives brands the opportunity to be in the content stream, which is important. I mean, not every brand wants to interrupt a message. They want to sometimes be part of the message. And I think that a lot of brands today are thinking more like media companies. They're hiring people that have media backgrounds, and there's some really interesting dialogue that's going on. Sometimes it's hard to scale it because a lot of times you end up in these sort of bespoke conversations. For us, I think the branded opportunities are better when it aligns with our programming strategy. So we're trying to find that balance between buying into what we're doing programmatically or on a vertical basis, as opposed to make a video that does this, which to me is a very complicated model to scale.
Hi, Beth Ann Kamenko from Tracy Locke, Omnicom Group Company. On that intersection of content and commerce, what are some mechanisms that you guys have seen working already that is converting people from content into transaction?
Well, I think for us it has to do with the relationship that we have with our guys and the nature of the content that we create. So, for example, I think traditional news is a really hard place to take a reader and convert them into a buyer because the editorial line is so black and white there. I think in lifestyle publications where we're not curing cancer, we're giving guys cool information about like stuff to do, and it's a pretty easy leap to build trust on that side of the business, and then based on where you see an individual engaging, start to offer them up opportunities to buy things that would make their life better. And it really, the context piece for us is the whole thing.
I would add one thing. We've seen a lot, and this happens mainly with our females lifestyle group. Young women are influencing a lot of purchase decisions, especially around shopping and makeup. So girls who are buying clothes in H&M and Forever 21 and then unpacking them in video, as weird as it sounds, there's a huge market in that. And there's been studies to show that it's influencing purchase decisions for other young women. So I think there's a stat I saw that 50% of purchase decisions for back to school will be made through video, through trusted sources. And we also have seen some of our women will use products, and we've been able to talk to someone like Sephora, and they see an influence in purchasing on the back of what these women are doing. We're working with YouTube to try and build more of that integrated into the content stream so you can actually transact directly through vendors, because it does help to have that immediate purchase opportunity. But I do think it's that we're seeing that this generation of talent is creating this degree of influence.
We're seeing it on, just to follow up, I'm on the board of a company called Zephyr, which has a product called Brand ID, which sits atop YouTube's Content ID and helps identify brands across both the officially uploaded stuff and the stuff that a user may pull out and reference. I saw a great example last week, CoverGirl. There's a woman, lots of them. There's lots of channels and lots of shows on YouTube where women are showing how to apply makeup, and they're highlighting CoverGirl makeup, and tens of millions of views, and CoverGirl's paying $0 for that, and they're now becoming the influencers of the brand for free, right? It's a fantastic example of user-generated content, integrating the brand, turning into transactions or commerce.
Let me ask you guys, starting with Nancy and Ross, about our smart young generation. I had one of my Harvard students come stay with me in Washington where she was doing an internship, and my TV wasn't working, and she, no problem, she just got online and paid for nothing of the programming that she watched for 2 days. Cord cutters, Nancy.
Well, look, I think, I have on my staff, several executives that really haven't subscribed to satellite or cable. They use a digital antenna, and they have their Xbox, and they said, apart for everything, perhaps other than sports, perhaps, which they then go to a sports bar to see, they don't really see the value particularly when there's just a handful of shows they really want to see. I mean, the question is whether that is a small percentage or will that percentage grow. But I think it's real, and I think the assumption was that as this generation gets a job and starts earning more money, that they will then go back to kind of what their parents are doing. I'm not sure that's the case.
Russ?
I think you're seeing, two things quickly. I don't think the problem is cord cutters as much as cord nevers.
Right.
I have 2 children, 10 and 5, and I consider them cord nevers. My son, my 5-year-old son, watches 100% of what he watches on the iPad, and he walks up to the TV screen and does this, and it doesn't move.
Right.
So he goes back to the iPad. Right. And I think that's the future challenge. Studies have shown, at least in the generation that we're in today, that once they reach 35, 32, 35, they actually go back to the traditional formats. And we're experiencing at Guggenheim, the things that are just doing better than ever are sports and
right.
live events or programming. We saw it with the Olympics. Programming that is unpredictable or is special. So the award shows we do with the Globes and the AMAs and the Billboard Music Awards
are still very
unbelievable
right.
ratings, and the price that MVPDs and distributors are paying for sports is higher than it's ever been.
Okay, I'm going to run down, since really quick prediction, even though Sasha's going to kill me because our time is up, but no one would have predicted Netflix, House of Cards. I want each of you to come up with a prediction. NFL rights owned by Xbox, I don't know, go quick.
Oh, wow. I think that we're going to see a huge shift in media dollars going to digital from broadcast in the next 3 years.
I think ad networks are done.
You think what?
Ad networks are done.
Advertising supported networks are done.
Like an ad network?
Ad network.
No more.
I'm going to throw 2 things out there. First of all, mobile is going to be far more impactful from an audience viewing standpoint than anyone predicts. You'll see it at the end of this year. And 2, it's going to take a lot longer. I mean, a decade at least, probably more, for the end of broadcasting cable television as we know it. It ain't going anywhere.
I agree with Ross. Television is going anywhere. I think what you're going to see is a lot of the packages is going to change, and you're going to see a lot more a la carte offerings.
Thank you so much. We went 1 minute and 42 seconds over. We now have an 11-minute break, a 10-minute, 52-second break. Anyways, take a break, come back, and reconvene. Thank you to our panel so much.